Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I don't really have any data to back this up, but I fully believe that the number one frustration, the number one cause of people quitting this art form of carving is they just don't have sharp enough tools. Now, how do we define sharpness? Well, I think it's a little bit easier to show you than to tell you. Right here I've got my little everyday carry flipper. This is an O knife, and by all usual measures, this knife is plenty sharp. You can see it'll slice through paper. It'll shave hair off my arm easily. But if I grab this little chunk of basswood and try cutting across the end grain, you can see it really struggles there. Versus this blade from Badger State Blades, it'll do all the same things, slice through paper easily. It'll shave hair. But when it comes to making these cuts in end grain, it glides right through. And I don't know how well that'll show up on camera, but if you can see, that cut is nice and glossy. There's no white lines or anything in that end grain cut. And that is how I measure true sharpness when it comes to carving. Now, why are those two different? Well, really, in order to demonstrate that, we're going to have a geometry lesson. So reach back, way back in the back of your mind, remember your high school days, sitting in geometry class wondering when this crap would ever be applicable in your life, and let's talk a little bit about it. Okay, so general disclaimer here. None of this is to scale. It's all heavily exaggerated just for emphasis. But this is a common flat grind would look like on most of your field knives. You have, of course, the flats leading to a fairly steep secondary bevel. Now, the reason for that secondary bevel in a knife that's getting heavy use like this is that leads to extra strength and supporting behind that point or that edge, meaning that it'll hold up to very tough use, for a longer period of time. This would be a zero grind, or some people would say that'd be a true flat grind, leading to basically no secondary bevel. The bevel or the flats leading all the way to the edge. This will slice through tough wood like butter. And a lot of times, like with reach back here and grab it, a Scandi grind knife, that's what you're going to be looking at, is basically no secondary bevel. The flats are going to go straight to the point. And then in between the two, for lack of a better term, what I've always heard it referenced to is called an appleseed grind. You're going to have your flats ground to a very minute secondary bevel, and that bevel doesn't have any hard corners. It's going to roll to that point, giving you some steel behind the point for support and for strength, but still allowing that steel to glide through wood very easily. This is my preferred grind and preferred edge. Now, a lot of you that are struggling, that can't seem to get the sharpness that you want, you are looking at more of this type of grind a lot of the times. Very good example is this knife right here. This is the GEC pocket carver. This is a very highly sought after pocket knife, and I love it. It's got 1095 steel. holds an edge very, very well, even for being one of the more common carbon steels. It cuts like a dream, but here's the catch. It cuts like a dream now. Whenever I got this thing, actually I got it for Christmas from my in-laws a couple years ago. And my first couple of cuts with it were disappointing, to say the least. It was ground more like a regular pocket knife, like a case pocket knife, something along this nature. And it would not cut worth a crap. I was able to fix it with whetstone, or in this case, a diamond lapping stone. But it took several hours of really hard work to get it to the point it's at now. Versus this knife that came in the mail is perfectly ground, ready to go right out of the box. So this is kind of an overview of what I'm looking for when I'm talking sharp for a knife. I want this type of grind. I don't want beefy bevels. I don't want wide, chunky steel. A lot of your quote budget knives that a lot of people are buying because you decide you wanted to give carving a try, and that's the first thing you can find on Amazon and get to your house the next day. You're struggling because the knife grind sucks. And I usually don't want to be that blunt about something of that nature, but that's just the way it is. You would do well to get yourself a quality made carving knife that is ground correctly and ready to use right out of the box. Now, I make no bones about it, I'm a huge fan of Badger State blades. I've got several of them here in my little tool tote. They're great. Ashton does a bang up job of grinding. They come out of the box ready to carve. Drake knives are the same way. Helvey, Alan Goodman, Dave Nato. These people know carving knives. So if you want to be successful and you want to avoid frustration, that is one of the best things you can do. Unless you have the ability and the knowledge to be able to sharpen and regrind bevels on your own, go ahead and save yourself a lot of frustration and get yourself a good quality carving knife from the get-go. Okay, now we've got ourselves a knife and it's ready to carve, but you've been carving for a little while and you're starting to notice that it's just not cutting the way that you think it should. What do we do then? Well, that's when you go to the strop. Now, stropping is a little bit of an art in and of itself. Now, I've got here, these are my 3 hand strops. These are the ones that I reach for the most. As you can see, this is a dunkel. This has got a pigskin. I don't know what you call it. The piece of leather is pigskin. It's a little thinner. It's a little firmer. This is just one I made out of some scrap wood and a piece of scrap leather I had laying around. Be honest with you, it works just as well. And this is the Flex Cut slip strop. I use it sometimes. I don't really love it for knives just because it's got such a short stroke. I want to have more strop to work with. So I usually use these more for my knives. I will grab this one for gouges at times. But I also, with gouges, like to power strop, and we will cover that at another time. In order to get the strop to function correctly, you need some kind of buffing compound. This is called Dunkel dust. All it is an aluminum oxide powder. And you just sprinkle a little bit on your strop and kind of rub it in. And then you just begin stropping. And I don't know how much this will, I'll try to keep my mouth shut so you guys can listen. But you can almost hear when it has removed any burrs from that edge. The first few passes are going to sound a little gritty, but then that'll go away whenever it's ready to cut. This is just a block of green compound I picked up off of Amazon. I have no idea the shop. To be honest with you, when it comes to these compounds, these blocks, I don't have any kind of preference there. Just get something and use it. With these, you got to kind of rub it into the strop a little bit. Get it kind of impregnated, get that wax heated up so it'll actually go into the leather. And then you're ready to strop. Now here's the thing. Stropping does remove metal. It doesn't remove it very fast, but it does remove metal. If you look at a strop that's been used quite a bit, you can see how black and dingy that is. That's metal has been removed from the knives after thousands and thousands of strokes. So if you strop incorrectly, you're going to remove metal in places that you do not want it removed from, leading to, again, frustration. Because what's going to happen if you hold the wrong angle, you're going to end up with this secondary bevel on your knife. And it's no longer going to cut like you think it should, or not just that you think it should, it's no longer going to cut like it should. So what we want to aim for is, what I like to do to teach people to get a feel for it, is lay the knife flat on your strop. And then you want to raise that spine up just about high enough to set a dime between the spine of the knife and the strop itself. And then it's just an easy pull stroke. When you get to the end of that stroke, here is the key. Lift straight up. And we've all seen the barber cartoons with their strop rolling that razor blade back and forth. You're going to screw up your carving knife if you do that. We want to slide it right along the strop and lift. Slide it along and lift. And once you get a feel for this, start slowly till you get this movement down pat. And once you get a feel for it, you can strop your edge pretty quickly with ease. So that's the general process for stropping an edge that's straight. What about more complex blade shapes, like an upsweep, or like this guy right here? This is my newest acquisition in the pocket knife department. This is a Rough Rider folding knife that's been ground by Alan Goodman. If you know anything about Alan, you know that he likes some kind of funky blade shapes. But he doesn't do these shapes just for the heck of it. Each of these have a purpose. This is his kukri shape, and I just got this knife a couple weeks ago. Been playing around with it. I really like this blade shape. The belly on it allows me to roll in and out of cuts easily. The heel gives me really good leverage without digging in as much as a straight blade does at times. And of course, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you see me use this guy. This is my 1.5 inch upsweep from Badger State. Stropping these is a little bit different, but the basics are still the same. Again, we're going to lay that knife flat on the strop, and we're just going to lift up just enough to see a little daylight under there. And if you watch, I kind of sweep the knife as I strop. That way the edge stays in contact with the strop as I go. Try to do it this way, see if it shows up a little better. So in these types of shapes, I like to strop from the heel to the tip. Now one like this, it's a little more complicated, because if I lay this thing on the strop and start to pull, I'm going to go straight from the heel to this belly. I'm going to miss a lot of this in here. So I kind of have to manipulate that blade around as I'm pulling. And that's where having like a radius like this can be beneficial. I can actually go right along that edge and kind of get that recurved area with that radius. And then go back and work the belly to the tip the same way I would work a regular upsweep. So that's my basic overview of how to sharpen and maintain carving knives. Let's move along from knives and talk a little bit about gouges here. Not all gouges are created the same. These are my most used gouges. I've got a number 9. I've got a soft V, and then I've got a classic V gouge. The main difference between sharpening these and a knife is a gouge is really a single bevel tool. We're mainly going to be focusing on the bevel here on this outer portion. So let's start with the soft V. Actually, no, I'm going to start with this number 9. The way I maintain that bevel here is similar to the knife, but these bevels are typically a little bit steeper. So I'll raise that handle up just a little bit till I see that the edge, and I want the edge just kissing that leather. and it's just a pull stroke, and I'm rolling the tool over as I go. This is going to, and this one may not be big enough to tell it, but it will leave a little bit of a burr on that inside edge. So that's where the slip strop comes in handy. Now, these things don't have any kind of leather on them. This is just straight wood. And a lot of the shapes to me are kind of useless. Like this guy here, I don't think I've ever used it for anything because I don't have a tool that fits that. It really doesn't matter though. And again, we want to load this up with compound. We can use any of these because all we want to do is just go right along that inside edge and just, we're not being aggressive here. We just want to pull that burr off. And of course, the way to test the sharpness of a gouge is to cut across the grain. It should cut with a nice shiny cut in there and not leave any tear out on that edge when it pops out. The soft V is, you treat it pretty similarly. I'm just going to roll it over because this tool is more akin to this number 9 than it is an actual V gouge when it comes to sharpening, at least in my eyes. We don't have a heel on here like we do with a regular V. So we can just roll this thing over. And again, we're going to go back and just pull that burr off with a few easy strokes. And of course, test it here. Cuts like a charm. V-tools are probably the hardest gouge to get a feel for being able to sharpen correctly. Well, maybe I can explain it here. The reason why is basically we've got 3 edges to consider here. Of course, you've got the 2 wings, but then this heel is also a factor. And a lot of people miss getting that heel sharp, leading to frustration when it comes to sharpening that V-gouge. On the V-gouge, I'm going to lay this guy where that edge just kisses that leather on the strop, and I'm just going to pull straight on each side, on each wing. I'm going to do the same number of strokes on each side. So get a feel for where that edge is just kissing the leather. And then the heel, we're going to put that point straight down and do the same thing. And we'll go back to this slip strop, pull off the burr. And then let's see how this guy cuts. Like a champ. When it comes to sharpening gouges, it doesn't matter if you're sharpening a big honking number 9 or the tiniest little V-gouge that you can imagine. The principles are the same. Take care of that bevel, get it sharp, and then remove the burr off the inside. That's all there is to it. Let's use this one. So this V-gouge, this is the Flex Cut Micro. I'm going to treat it the exact same way. And let's see if that cuts much better. So that's the basics. That's hand sharpening using just a strop in a nutshell. I think I'm going to cut the video here, and next time I'm going to show you guys how to achieve the same results much quicker. So until next time, get those knives stupid sharp and enjoy your carving process so much more. And keep your knife in the wood and happy carving. Bye.